My name is Pranav Ayyappan, and I'm a freshman at UNC Chapel Hill, studying neuroscience, biology with a chemistry minor.
Perfect. And before we dive into your story, I have to ask, like, when you got the UNC acceptance letter, what was your first thought and where were you?
It was pretty good. It was a funny story because UNC, I applied early action, so it was one
Mm-hmm.
of my first acceptances that I did get, and I was coming home from school that day with a couple of my close friends, and we were making bets on who would get in and where we'd all end up, like every like high school senior does. And everybody's like, "Oh yeah, you'll get into UNC because it's been one of my dream schools from the very beginning." So I got
Mm-hmm.
home, was with my family, and I didn't really expect it. Out of state UNC is known to be kind of difficult, so the first reaction was pretty happy, and then after that, all the other decisions came in, and I knew UNC would be the one after, just because of all of our reactions and how my parents reacted as well.
Perfect. And could you tell us, like, about your background and where you're from and how does someone from your location end up at UNC?
Yeah, so I'm from Downingtown, Pennsylvania. The school I went to was the Downtown Area STEM Academy, and it's an international baccalaureate school. So I
Mm-hmm.
believe it's ranked like second in Pennsylvania. It's a pretty good
Mm-hmm.
school. And at least from my year, there were like 10 to 12 kids who got into UNC because our school has a pretty good reputation with UNC. And about three of us accepted and finally are at UNC, including me. So typically from my area, it's a very competitive area. So there's
Mm-hmm.
all type of ethnicities, genders, and everything. And oftentimes, what happens is we all have unique standpoints. Our school sent a lot of places to different schools, and I think the people who went to UNC were often the ones who were like very diverse in their field. UNC is known for its business and pre-med categories, so most of the people who did accept it were either econ, stat, CS, or pre-med like I am.
Okay. And what kind of high school was it? Was it public? Was it private?
It was a public high school.
Okay. And like, when did UNC first enter your mind as a possibility?
So I started off pretty early because UNC entered my mind around my junior year. Junior year,
Mm-hmm.
typically in the very beginning, is when I started planning out my college app career and where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. And UNC was one of those kind of institutions that stood out to me because of its research. I love my research. I did it all throughout high school, which I'll talk later about.
Mm-hmm.
And UNC was one of those places that had a lot of research opportunities for all the students. And because Duke is very nearby, even though they're in sports, they're rivals, in academics, they all work together. And the research
Okay.
triangle is pretty amazing for UNC, which is why it entered my mind in the first place.
Okay. Let's move on from that and let's talk about the numbers that got you in. So what were your stats? Let's talk about GPA, test scores, everything.
Yeah, so I think for GPA, I had a 4.4 weighted. Our school didn't do unweighted. And
Okay.
for SAT, I believe anything above like the 1500. For ACT, anything above like the 34 was where I was scoring at. And because of those numbers, I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like numbers are just a check mark on your college
Hmm.
applications because oftentimes people associate the kids with 4.0 1600, which I did not have. Those go into Harvard, Stanford, and UNC, like all the other top schools. Only the numbers matter. An advice I'd give to everybody is that numbers are just one part of it. Sure, they've heard it 1,000 times, but there are people that I've known, even my friends at UNC, who aren't very academically amazing, like those, but they have other parts of their story that really made them stand out.
Got it. And in terms of your school grades, like were you the valedictorian or were the people ahead you?
No, so our school didn't rank, but if I were to take a guess, a very broad guess, it would be like top 30, I believe, top 30, top
Hmm.
20. There were kids who definitely had higher GPAs than me, higher CT scores than me. I wasn't valedictorian, but I was known to be pretty smart in the school just because of
Hmm.
all the academics. But everybody from that school worked hard, and the kids who were valedictorians also, if I'm right, they didn't go to Harvard or Yale. We had one Princeton, but they also went to other normal like state schools that are very well known for their academics. Like went to Mish for business, went to UNC for pre-med, went to
Okay.
different universities. So it's
Yeah.
very diverse.
And what would you say was your school's average SAT score or ACT score?
I believe it was pretty high. Our school, just because it is ranked really well, our school, I don't know the exacts, but a lot of my friends did score above the 1500s. And the often trend was when you score above 1500 and you have above like a 4.4 weighted, which is like a
Hmm.
3.8 unweighted, if I'm guessing right, is where those most of the successful stories happen, like going to like a good school with good scholarships or something like that. So I think the average might have been like maybe 1450. Maybe if you translate it like a 33, 34, it was definitely on the
Mm-hmm.
higher end.
Got it. And you said you had a 1500 buck. Do you know your exact score?
Yeah, it was sort of around like the higher 1500. I'm just gonna keep it
Okay.
broad just because, but it was around the higher 1500s. And the reason I do keep it broad is because I don't believe that test scores are the most important. I want people to, in most of this podcast tutorial that we have, I want them to focus on getting the perspective of their story. Their storyline is why they're doing what they're doing. Because oftentimes for GPA and SAT, people look at the numbers, which is true, but then there's a whole other aspect of fit. You have to be a good fit for UNC. There's so many kids that I know who got into, like, my best friend, he got into Princeton, but he didn't get into like another state school, and it's because of fit. It's because he fit into that one school. And likewise for me, I didn't get into NGIT, which has like a 70% acceptance rate, but I got into UNC, which has like a 5% out of school acceptance rate because my
Hmm.
story fit better. So that's
Oh,
something I
okay.
do want to definitely look into.
Got it. And that's like the common narrative with a lot of people I've been interviewing as well. Just you gotta be able to fit properly. Because I had a girl who had like 1400 SAT. She still got into Harvard just because she
Yeah,
showed leadership.
yeah.
So yeah, I totally understand. And how many times did you take the SAT for
So
you
I
to get?
took it 2 times. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I took it 2 times. My first time was like no prep, no nothing, just took it, and I scored like lower 1400s. Wasn't my favorite score. And then I put some effort into it over the summer, did like a summer camp, like intensive summer camp, and then my score jumped because I actually had put time. And I'm naturally better at math than English, so my English
Mm-hmm.
was the one I had to really work on.
And what was the journey like? How hard was it to move the score to 1500 plus?
So honestly, I think it was relatively easy for me because I started off with like a 730 math and like a 600, like 650, higher 600s in English. And my reading comprehension was my negative bad part. So for me, it was just because maybe I didn't read enough as a child. But that summer was kind of like 8 hours a day, just pure SAT, and it was sort of just doing
Okay.
back-to-back testing. And one thing about SAT is that people just spam practice tests. Same with MCAT, GRE, LSATs. People just
Mm-hmm.
spam practice tests. But for me, I spent 8 hours taking the test, and then I also spent 8 hours correcting and reviewing the test. So I spent
Okay.
equal amount of time reviewing. So not just the ones I got right, not just the ones I got wrong, but overall I did the ones that I got right and wrong. So why I got it right could have been a guess, and obviously the ones wrong I worked it out, talked it over with friends, and I think that was helpful a lot because when you spam practice tests, you're getting practice, but if you don't understand why you're getting it wrong, there's no point in practicing then because you're not going to
Got
apply it.
it. Got it. Excellent advice. Yeah, I think this will be really helpful for people. Let's move on. Let's talk about your extracurriculars. What do
Yeah.
you think was the one thing you did outside of class that you think made the admissions officers stop and pay attention?
I think it was my research. Like I said before, I'm very
Mm-hmm.
involved in research. I started my freshman year of high school, and when I was around 13, I joined a research lab, started there. And I think that was the one thing that really set me apart. I'm sure many other people did, like science fairs and all, but for me, it was that I got to start my own project very early. I was 13,
Okay.
joined the lab. I showed good enough skill to be competent enough to be left alone, and I did a lot of in vivo testing, which was with mice models. And I
Mm-hmm.
did that for 3 years. I'm still in the progress of publishing the papers. I went to multiple conferences. And I think that's the one thing that stood out. Means I didn't do like 30 research labs. I didn't barely filled my 10 slots on my Common App. But my top three were all 4 years, at least like 60 hours a week, 60 hours a week. Like I put a lot of time into it. And I think that set me
Mm-hmm.
apart, especially for UNC, because every UNC student does research at some point. I'm in the process of getting into a new lab right now, and a lot of the freshmen do get into research, and I think that's why it was a good fit, was because of my research, was because I take pride in going into a deeper concept of like a route. So like I'm planning to do the MD PhD route, and because of that, I like research and the clinical side. So I definitely think it was my research and how far I went into it. It wasn't baseline research like shadowing. It was taking my own project and working all the way through, from introduction to publishing and conferences.
Got it. And like, when did you realize you actually needed to step up your extracurricular game for universities? Was there like a panic moment?
Honestly, no. And here's the one thing I will say about why. It's because I had a friend who was oftentimes very involved. There was no panic moment because I feel like it's really important to do stuff because you like it and not for the college app process.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout this whole journey, whatever I talk about and everything, honestly, I did stuff because I liked it, which made it so much easier to focus and think of it as the fun method. Meaning that after school, I went to research and I did research for hours. And usually people are burnt out after school, want to relax, hop on video games. But my
Mm-hmm.
version of video games was research. And I
Okay.
think that's really important because then there was no panic moment for me. I saw other people go to IMO, IBO, win science fairs, and that's cool. Like I wish I could do that. But I also found enjoyment in my research. So even though I was working majority of the day, I never felt stressed other than being in school. So there
Got
was
it.
no panic moment. Obviously, like if a research project didn't work out, if a paper didn't go through, there were panic moments. But there's no panic moment being that I had to step up my game because I did what I liked. I often found myself being the one that was ahead, or people were coming to for advice, or a little bit better in the terms of extracurricular abilities and how over-rounded I was shaped.
Got it. And what do you think is basically useless for college apps in terms of extracurriculars? Like you would advise your younger self to avoid at all costs.
Yeah, that's a good question. I honestly like I'm gonna answer this in two ways because obviously I don't believe anything is a waste because people do stuff because they like it. But
Mm-hmm.
a waste is doing something because you are forced to by your parents or doing something because you're purely just doing it for college apps. Like I know kids who've done like science fair because their parents forced them to. Sure, they made it to ISEF, and maybe they did get into a good college, but they didn't enjoy the process. So high school is literally not fun for them. So I think doing anything that you don't like is a waste of time because
Okay.
obviously there are stuff you have to study for SAT. If that's a waste of time, deal with it. Study for it. Get it over with. But if you're doing like research, if you're doing like a nonprofit, if you're doing a startup, if you don't care about it, it's not worth it because you have
Mm-hmm.
to put time and effort and really love it to get the results. And oftentimes, if you don't like what you're doing, you're going to procrastinate, you're going to push it off, and you won't even be successful. And then at the end of the day, senior year college apps, you won't have anything to show because you didn't care. And because you didn't
Got
care,
it.
you had no results to show.
Got it. Totally understand it. I think this is very important for everyone who's listening because then you cannot even commit to the thing you're actually
Yeah.
doing and then you cannot show impact. So that's
Mm-hmm.
basically useless. Okay, let's talk about your essays. So what did you write your main essay about?
Honestly, I'm gonna pull it up just because I think it's been like a year and a half. It's
Okay.
been quite a while. UNC, if I'm okay, I have it pulled up. If I'm speaking correctly, they had two prompts. Unlike other college
Good.
applications like Harvard, when I have eight, UNC stuck to
Yeah.
two.
Let's
And
talk
because I
about
know this
the
is
sorry.
yeah,
Let's talk about the Common App essay first and then let's talk
yeah,
about the
yeah,
UNC
yeah.
specific essays.
Okay. So my Common App was personal, so I'm gonna keep it like broad in the
Yeah.
sense of like a topic and talk about it, but I also
Yeah, yeah.
certainly don't mind sharing a lot about it. So
Okay.
my Common App was structured around, it was kind of a unique take. There's a punctuation mark called the Interrobang, and it's often used
Mm-hmm.
to show like surprise and complexity and like a question
Okay.
mark. And I interpreted this as like a question mark being the question you ask, the thing you want to find out, and the exclamation part being the action you take. So, with that in mind, I split it up into three sections about my pre-med journey and how I got into pre-med because I am a pre-med and oftentimes they want you to be deeply involved in that. And I talked about how throughout the process of research, like clinical hours and all that, how I had questions and then how I learned from it.
Okay.
And the whole storyline started from like when I came to the US and all the healthcare inequities that I saw. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the main things is that people don't get the healthcare they need. And I thought that was very important. That was a question I asked. And the action I took was EMT, research, or certain components. And I think especially for Common App, you don't want to go too deep into your research, too deep into your personal like
Mm-hmm.
extracurriculars, because you have your activity sections. That's the reason it's there.
Yep.
And I had to be very careful because mine was a pure hit or miss. That could have been the reason I got rejected from other schools, and that probably was the reason I got into UNC. So
Okay.
I think one of the main advice I'd give is that you should never list your activities in your Common App. I talked about research, I talked about clinicals, but I talked about why I was interested in research, why I chose to do research, like my end goal, my journey of being a doctor, and why I wanted to do that. Not once did I mention the research I did. Maybe like a word that was about like neuroscience, but that's about
Mm-hmm.
it. And then I also had a lot of me in it. That being said, me, when I say that, I mean a lot of personality and touch. Like if somebody, like people say all over the time, like if you drop your essay and somebody picks it up, they know it's me just because of the things I say in it, maybe the humor I make in it. I'm a humorous person in general, and I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was important to put into my Common App because, like I said, like these people in the admissions are reading like 10 minutes on each application. Like something has to
Yeah.
stand out. And I'm a humorous person, so it came off really well. The jokes made sense. It wasn't too corny and it wasn't like it's forced. So it probably worked out. And other
Got
people
it.
will try to find the like ones like I know there's one for Harvard where it's like the letter S or she hated the color pink. Like those are like really crazy ideas that work for them because they meant it. And if you're trying to resonate with that and like try to replicate it, it probably won't work. Just because
Yeah.
once again it has to be because you like it, so it's so much easier. And I did maybe like 3 drafts on it, had like 10 different people read it and they all liked it. I didn't do too many drafts on it
Okay.
just because I wrote about something I liked and it seemed to work out.
Yep.
And I had a lot of grammar edits, but the whole idea came naturally to me.
Got it. And do you mind sharing like how many essay topics did you go through before landing on this one?
Yeah, so I started June before my senior year. Honestly, been through like 7 topics.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the topics range from like my first one was atrocious. It was about like spike ball. I play spike ball a lot, so it was about
Okay.
spike ball and how the round net structure can help me perceive different angles of life and how suddenly there's a sudden turn and you have to work with a partner. You always have to be dependent. And I like the essence of it, but that didn't really stick with me because I play spike ball, sure, but I didn't think that was something I really liked talking about because your Common App is your central part of your application. It's why you're applying and it's what you're applying for, like what you stand for. And I didn't think Spikeball was a good representation. So a lot of the times I canceled out my Common App, like the drafts I had, purely because I just didn't think that represented me well. And the reason I chose healthcare was because I decided around like freshman year of high school that's what I wanted to do, very, very early. And a lot of my family come from the medical side. So I had
Okay.
a lot of exposure and I thought that was what meant the most to me.
Got it. And yeah, so that's how you knew this was perfect. And let's walk us through your supplemental essays for UNC.
Yeah, so I know these prompts are online, so I don't mind reading, but one of them was discuss one of your personal qualities and share a story, anecdote, or
Mm-hmm.
memory of how it helped you make a positive impact. And I'm an immigrant. I grew up in India, moved here when I was like a year, so lived here my whole life, but still born in India. And one of the main things I talked about is consistency and how it paid off. Because I thought that was pretty important in my life. We all have different learning styles. My mom learned by reading, my dad learned by writing. I learned by simply talking it over with people and watching YouTube videos. And because of this and how I know there's so many different styles of teaching, I decided to pursue a extracurricular called NSF North South Foundation, where I taught underprivileged kids like math and English. And I thought that was important to mention because I always have like teaching. And teaching requires you to be really good at the subject in order to like simplify it enough in order to explain it to others. And I thought that was an important quality, especially for UNC, because they really admire collaboration and work ethic and also a supportive community. UNC has 2 scholarships, Moorhead Kane and Robertson. And even though I wasn't a part of them, I did apply to them. And one of my friends who's a Moorhead, has also told me that teaching is a very big part of UNC because they love their TAs, they love their writing centers, they have
Mm-hmm.
so many opportunities to teach other students. And I thought that was a thing that resonated with me because in research, I love presenting. I like teaching people my topics. In the nonprofits I do, I like spreading information. So teaching has always been some aspect of my life. And because my mom was a teacher back in India, it resonated me with a lot because our family revolved a lot about helping others and making sure the information we have always gets passed around. And I think that's one thing about the supplemental essays is that people answer them like a generic prompt, which is what you're supposed to do. But you're also
Mm-hmm.
supposed to have the mission statement of that college in mind. You can't simply copy and paste one UNC prompt into a Harvard prompt and use that for a Yale prompt and use that for a Hopkins prompt. It's not going to work
Yep.
because, well, they're all amazing schools and excel in their own fields, they have different like missions that they're trying to accomplish. And UNC is being collaboration in teaching, something I learned from talking to a bunch of UNC students, which is something I also recommend people doing. Is that I know you're at NYU, is like
Yep.
especially for NYU, I had a lot of friends go there, and it's reaching out to the students who go to that school and asking them about their experience. Because oftentimes, if somebody asked me about UNC, I would highlight the helpful moments I had. Somebody at Harvard would highlight the leadership. Somebody at Stanford would highlight the entrepreneurship, and that's all their mission statements that you'll understand. So that was the one big thing for this prompt that I really took a part in, and like
Got
explained
it.
about.
Perfect. We turn off this podcast, what's like a piece of advice you would give to someone who's looking to apply to UNC?
I just have a couple for UNC. I know, like I said, UNC is big on collaboration. And once again, if UNC is your dream school, definitely apply for it in the early action round. I mean, they take a lot more
Mm-hmm.
students, and out of state is significantly harder to get into than in state because they heavily prioritize their in state students. And one of the main things I would say for UNC is highlight your teaching and collaboration. Because, I mean, for the past week, I've had my first week of classes, and everybody here is amazingly nice and collaborative. I know other schools are very toxic. My high school was kind of, every high school is toxic in a way
Yeah.
because all the students are competitive. But once I got here, I haven't met somebody who was out to get me, was always wanted to be better. Like, there are hundreds of students that are way better than I ever will be, but they never show it, and they all come across as very humble and nice. And UNC hates, not hates, I don't know admissions, but they definitely don't prefer the type of people who are very braggy and egotistical. Just because I haven't seen it on campus. There are kids right here, right now, who are like Robertsons, who are Moorhead Canes, and honestly, I still don't know who they are. Like, everybody seems normal people here. When you look deeper, yeah, they're amazing people, but always come across as humble. And mention your collaboration, I think, for UNC, because they love teamwork and working together. Because
Got
this
it.
is the general thing with colleges, is they want people who work together and not people who just do their own thing. Because the whole point of college is to bring people up with you and not just drag people down and then you get on top. It's to make sure everybody's doing okay and that you're in like a happy, healthy community. It would be like one of my main pieces of advice. And honestly, do the things you like, because everybody these days, especially the people that I know, are doing like Olympiads because their parents told them.
Yep.
They're doing science fair because it looks cool. They're doing nonprofits because it's a nonprofit and it looks cool. They're raising money, which is maybe they're like a GoFundMe, or they're doing a startup because they think they're gonna be in Y Combinator next. And I hope they do, but if you do something you like and you put your time and effort into it, it always turns out like really good. At first, UNC, okay, yeah, it's like stereotypically it's a T30. It's like it's maybe not like Harvard and Yale, but when after I came here, I definitely do think this is a really good place for me to be in because I fit into all the clubs. I'm finding the research I like, and I haven't had that much trouble finding research. I did research in high school, was in like 2 labs. I came here, my first week, I emailed 2 professors, and I
Mm-hmm.
have interviews at both the places in this upcoming week.
Damn.
So it
Yeah.
honestly hasn't been hard. I know in UNC, like they say it's really hard to get research, but I did it because I liked it. And when you see my CV, it's pretty evident that I did it because I liked it. So that's what I would say is wherever you go, and don't ever lie on college apps. I mean, that's the one thing. Tend to inflate the numbers, add an extra zero to their hours, say they got more scholarship than they did from somewhere, say that they're president of a club. And I'm sure people can get by with lying about 10 or 20 hours, but if you get in for a school because you lied about it, one, they can rescind you if they ever find out, which isn't worth it. And on top of that, when you lie about it, you're not putting your true self out there. So maybe they would have liked you better if you had 100 hours because then they know you spent more time somewhere else. But if you lie about something, they can take you as a different person. And at the end of the day, you'll get into the school you're meant to be. I know people who were devastated by not getting into like an Ivy League, and then they go to like a normal school, maybe like some other school, and they're happy there now. So always come across as like your true self. And I think that means the most to college applicants.
Got it. Thanks a lot for your time. I really appreciate it, and I think the viewers will really appreciate it as well.